Hello, everybody. The show is called TBR SSF show, which is simply means the Big R Solutions. We speak so many things. Finance is the cornerstone of this show. But you know my attitude. I'm more of education than any other thing. Because you know it as much as I know, there is no school that teaches about finance. And now that makes us to be poorer, all right, because we don't know how to deal with some of these jargons that we come across. So I've made it my journey that I will educate, because that's what I do. Now I'm very grateful that I've requested Advocate Makhado, the first ombuds for GPF. You know that we are dealing with GPF. I've done a number of shows on GPF. He's the first one. And then you'll tell us how far they've gone ever since they've started. I think it's 3 years now. He has been in the office of GBF as an ombudsman. So you'll be explaining those kind of issues that are very, very important. My name is the Story Boys, Walefatsi from TBR, as I've already indicated. Let me welcome Advocate Makhado. Advocate Makhado, it was a long introduction, but welcome to our interview.
Thank you. I'm glad to be assisting.
Yeah, I must say, Advocate Makhado, I'm very proud of you because, you know, when we ask you, this is our second interview. Advocate Makhado, we want an interview. You're always available, all right? And for me, I think that's how it should happen. I've tried with GBF. They said now they have their own platforms and all that. Well, which is fine. I need to respect that. Everybody has a platform, all right? But if it was me in my position, any platform, how to use it, as long as the message goes out there. That's very important. But on a good note, I'm now starting having a very good relationship with them at GPF. It started very rough, very rocky. It seems as if we are getting along now. And I've seen a lot of improvement. I don't know whether it's because of your office putting pressure or it's because of us, some of us putting pressure. And then I even wrote them an email to congratulate them on the good performance that we are seeing now. Because it's all about that. It's all about good performance, which at the end of the day, it benefits who? The members, who are very important. Advocate Makhado, I've listened to a lot of people. People are saying, we've heard on radios and all sorts of things. GPF have said, if you have financial problems, especially financial problems, you want to resolve them, they are going to give people an opportunity to go and borrow money from whatever that they have in their pension and sort whatever that they sort. I have a different approach as far as that is concerned. That's my own perception. But I know it's a bill for now. Do you want to tell us exactly what is it? Or it's a question of people having wrong information? You are dealing with that information. Maybe you can tell us what's happening.
Thank you. I believe you are talking about what has been in the media for the last year and a half or so.
Yes.
Basically, we're talking about something called the two-pot system.
Okay.
What this is about is currently a bill. It's about people having access to their retirement benefits before they retire or before the termination of their employment. What normally used to happen, or what was the standard practice, is that up to today, if the only way you can access the money in your retirement, in your pension fund, is if you retire or if you terminate your employment, then you can access that money. Now, they want to add another condition where people can access that money without having to retire. For situations which we do come across, we do know that the economy is not doing so well currently. So some people are really financially stressed. So to cater for those type of events that people don't actually have to resign or retire before time just to access their money, they want to open up so that people can get a bit of money to tie themselves up in those hard financial situations.
All right. Now, has it been suggested how much are they going to get? A third, 2/3, half, or what? How much?
Yes. This two-pot system is going to introduce what they call a saving scheme. Basically, a portion of the money that they are going to contribute to will be put aside, that a person can access this amount annually, once annually.
Okay,
so
let me get it clear, Advocate.
Yes.
So now from now on, as people contribute, there will be a two-pot system.
Yes.
One will go to the pension.
Yes.
The other one will go to the savings.
Yes.
Which will be flexible. If you want it, then you can access it.
You can access it once a year.
It makes it once a year.
Yes.
Yeah.
This
Why
hasn't
they're still
started.
there, sorry, Advocate, once a year, does that mean I can take it 2023? 2024, I can take it again. 2025, I can take it again.
That means it means that. That means, but remember, this hasn't started. The bill is still being finalized. So
Yes.
if it is to happen, as indicated by Treasury, it will start in the new financial year of 2024. So that will be the 1st of March, 2024.
Now, let's get it here. Let's get it here. You have Chabalala. He has been in the system for 40 years.
Yes.
Then you have Selematsela. He has just come in, starting to contribute.
Yes.
Now, this is going to affect Chabalala, who has been there in a long time, because there was no two-pot system. Or is it going to start with Selematsela, who's new, and then now the contribution will be in a two-pot system?
It's going to affect both of them.
Okay.
It's going to be affecting both of them. The one who is new will start contributing, meaning that in 2024, when they open up, that person will be allowed to start contributing to this
two-pot system.
Chabalala,
who has been there for 40 years, what's going to happen?
40 years, will also, as from that day, will be allowed to start contributing to both the retirement and the savings pot. But Chabalala will also have an advantage that a portion of what they've already contributed will be put into this savings scheme as a seeding amount. Depending on how much they have, 10% of those the money that is in the pension scheme will be put into the savings account.
Okay. So now they will have access.
Yes. So not exceeding 25,000. So they will either start with basically with 25,000 rands in the pot, in the savings pot, whereas the one who is starting will start with a 0 and start contributing from there.
Okay, 25,000 is a maximum.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's just right there. 25,000 for Chabalala. 2023, he gets 25,000.
2024.
2024. Yeah, when 2024. I was just saying 2023 but let's start with 2024 so that we are appropriate.
Yeah.
Chabalala will have 25,000, 2024. 2025, can Chabalala go back for another 25,000?
Yes, if from that point in the savings scheme, Chabalala has contributed 25,000 into the savings pot, then Chabalala can go back and get another 25,000. But remember, the seeding from the retirement pot is a once-off event. It's happening once. From there, Chabalala can only top up on top of that 25,000. Basically, as he contributes monthly, a portion will be allocated to contribute to the savings account. So the following year, if he had withdrawn 25,000, he can only access what he would have contributed into the savings pot and the investment returns, of course.
Advocate, pardon me if I ask you if I sound dumb, okay? I want you to clarify simpler for a layman like me. You say if seeded 25,000, 2024, yes. Chabalala gets the money. 2025, it's not guaranteed that Chabalala has another 25,000. It will depend how much he has contributed in 2025.
Definitely.
If he has contributed 10,000, Chabalala can access only 10,000. Do I hear you correctly?
You hear me correctly. And there is also a minimum. It's not just a maximum. There's two figures that are being muted. The minimum, the person can, when a person claims, they must have a minimum of 2,000 in the pot, in the savings pot.
In the savings pot, okay?
Yes. And the maximum that they can take home is 25,000 from the savings pot in a year.
Okay.
Yes.
Very nice information. I hope, thank you so much, Advocate. I hope people will understand the way I understand it, because they need to be clear and understand very well. And then because, I don't know, maybe it will cap some of these problems of people going to machonisas and borrow money and all that. So now at least they can use their pension. But at the same time, Advocate, this is in passing. I'm just saying it. I want your comment. What's your take? My understanding of pension, having worked with pension doesn't make a person rich. That's my understanding. Pension is good for survival. Why am I saying that, Advocate? You see some people when they go on pension, right when they go on pension, they start buying a mansion of 5 million. All right? Now, he could not afford a house of 5 million while you are still working. Now he goes for 5 million house. All right? So for me, I think this is the wrong way of doing it. For me, tell me if I'm wrong. Remember, I have my own perception, and people will also have their own perception. My understanding is pension money is for the living expense. Remember, you pension at 60 and above. It is expected by that time, your children would have completed at school, you would have paid your bond and all that. So there are no other issues. So it's the money that should be used to survive. What is surviving is for the living expense. Am I interpreting correctly? But I'm trying to give an advice here, which people can take or not take it. I want to hear your opinion
there. That is why people are encouraged to obtain financial advice, basically to do what is called financial planning at the beginning of their jobs. When they start, they are 22 years, 23 years, they are starting to work, to start planning for pension. That is when you're supposed to be planning how much and how well you want to be living after you retire. Not when they are retiring. That is too late. So what they need to do basically is to plan in such a way that by the time they retire, they are debt-free. They've paid out the house, like you said, they've paid out the bonds, and basically the children's school fees, the money should basically to keep them in the same lifestyle that they were living while they were working. That is the aim of a pension.
Okay.
For most people, it's unlike that because either the pension is they haven't saved long enough, which is the biggest problem because in the past, people were allowed to, when they change jobs, to withdraw the funds. And instead of basically preserving them so that they continue to build up on the pension that they would withdraw and spend it as if it's basically some lump sum. A windfall that comes halfway through their working careers. And that was not that is not what pension is for. Pension is basically that by the time they retire, they have enough.
Yes.
And normally the planning is supposed to be that they should be getting 75% of what they were earning while they were still working. But normally you find, especially here in South Africa, people are getting 50% or less, which makes it harder to maintain their previous lifestyles of when they were employed.
The FSCA recommends that they start with 6% of their earnings, 6%. Remember, they can, especially when they're independent with independent fund, they can increase their payment up to 17.5%. So they are recommending that it's better to start at 6%, then it will last them longer. But you know our people, when they want to say, I want to live and get the same amount that I was getting. All right. So and then that creates problems. But thanks for that input, because that's the clarity that I wanted, and some of my people, they have been asking. Now I want us to go to the pension benefit statement of GPF. I'm sure you saw. You correct things if I'm wrong. Now, if you look at the estimated pension benefits before tax under normal retirement, they will say GPF will give you, let's say for argument's sake, 25,000 monthly pension annuity payable. That is before tax. Do you want to say something to make it easy for somebody to understand what is it?
This applies to when a person retires. So basically, when that statement is issued, if you look at the top, it will have a date.
Yeah.
And that date will basically say, if you had retired on this day, this is what you will be entitled to from the fund, based on the times that you have been contributing and your current average salary. So that is basically, so those conditions are tied to it is now. So if you do retire later on, so those things will change as you go along.
Yeah, I'm asking this question because clarity is important. I always say to people, when you're dealing with money, you need to get clarity. It has to be clear, because this is a decision that's going to be there with you for life. So you are not allowed to make any mistake. And I always argue and say, even if they say, Dr. Makhado, if I'm a financial advisor, if I advise, I must just treat Dr. Makhado as somebody who doesn't know anything, even if he can read for himself. You are a lawyer yourself, you know. I will explain and say, Dr. Makhado, this is what it means, all right? And I even go further and say, guys, have you seen how the court behaves? The court will say, submit an affidavit. But simultaneously, the court will require you to talk to that affidavit. Because the reason why they want you to talk to the affidavit, they don't want any ambiguity. What is in the affidavit and what you say must talk to each other. So that is why clarity for me is important. Now, as we were saying, the savings. Now, when it comes to this 1/3, when the people go on pension, their 1/3 is not going to be affected.
No. The retirement pot basically will remain the same. There will still be a 1/3. There will be the 2/3 that are going to be paid out as an annuity.
Yeah. Now, so this other money that they get as for the second pot, the one for the savings, where will it come from? Will it come from members, or does it come from GPF, or does it come from government? So that I need to be clear on that one.
It comes from the members' contributions.
Contribution. So what is the meaning of that? The contribution will increase now. Or
that we are still waiting for clarity on that. Is the rate of contribution going to be increased? There's two ways that it can happen. It can either be that the rate of contribution will increase, then a part of that increase will be paid to the savings, or that what is currently being paid to the retirement portion will be decreased so that a portion can be paid to the savings.
Okay, it makes a better sense. Thank you very much for clarifying those issues. And I'm still looking at the pension fund benefit statement. And then when it says monthly pension payable to spouse, 0, that means there was no money allocated to the spouse. Am I right?
No. That's not what it means. Basically, first thing, in terms of the GPF rules, there is what is called a spousal pension. The spousal pension only happens if the spouse dies, either before they get into pension or after they started receiving pension and they die. Basically, the spouse will get half of what the member was getting, or the pensioner was getting. That is a spousal pension. But that is provided that the member was married when they went on pension.
Yeah.
Or when they died.
Yeah.
So if the member was not married, then there is 0 spousal pension.
All right. You know why I'm asking that question, Advocate? I've seen some of them, when it comes to the spousal, say 0. Then I said, does that mean there was no contribution towards the spouse? I've seen those pension benefit statements. That is why I want clarity on. I don't know whether have you seen such?
Yes. Basically, what that means then is that according to the GPF records, that person is not married.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. So there will not be an allocation for the spouse. And it's got nothing to do with contributions. There's no separate contributions made for a spouse.
Yeah.
Yes. Basically, it's a continuation of what the member was getting when they were alive.
Okay.
Yes.
No.
On that note as well, basically there's members, the spousal benefit that is payable to the member, to the spouse of the member, will be half of what the member was getting. But there's an option where when the member is going on pension, they can opt to receive less, so that the spouse, should they die, the spouse can receive 75% of what the member was getting instead of the 50%. Okay. They will say, instead of, please I'm going on retirement, but I want my spouse to get what is called an enhanced benefit. Should I precede them?
Okay.
And there's also another condition that goes with that, that only happens if the member dies before the spouse. If the spouse dies before the member, then there's nothing payable.
Say it again. There's nothing payable to who now?
That is because the spouse has died before the member.
Before the member. So
yes.
nothing will be
when
paid.
the member follows, there is no spouse benefit payable because there's no more spouse.
Now, what's going to happen to that money?
That is the thing. It's not basically what it operates similar to what you call an insurance policy. If you get a car insurance policy, an accidental car insurance, and you don't get an accident, what happens to that money?
No, you won't get it.
You don't get it. The same thing, the same principle applies. Yes, it will only be when the conditions are fulfilled that you will actually qualify to get that money.
This is the big one that I want to get clearly, because there's confusion on this one. The lump sum gratuity payable to beneficiary. All right. It says beneficiary are people who can receive gratuity payment from your pension after your death. Beneficiary can be your dependents and or nominees. It is important to nominate beneficiary to keep the nomination updated. Now, here, Advocate Makhado, I want you to explain clearly, because this is very important. The prevailing notion, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, is when a member passes on, remember it's a 5-year guarantee. Before we close, I want you to explain that 5-year guarantee, all right? As a parting one. When the member passes on, they say the money will go to the spouse, and it should be an official married spouse, all right? Not maslalisane, cohabiting, okay? And then if they are not there, it should be received by children who are biological children or officially adopted children, but limited to age 24. Is it 24? Ne? Beyond 24, there's nothing.
Maybe I should interrupt you there, because I think you are having it that upside down.
Yes, that's why I wanted to get it clear. Yes.
Yes. First thing, when a member dies, let's say the member is still employed. Yes. They are contributing to the fund. They are not pensioners.
Yes.
There is what is called a death benefit payable, basically the value of what the member had in the fund. That has got nothing to do with the spousal benefit that we were talking about. It's a separate thing.
It's a separate thing.
Yes, that is what they are talking about there when they say you must nominate.
Yeah.
A nomination basically is a document that indicates who you wish the money to be paid to.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a will.
Yeah.
And it's got nothing to do with the rest of your other property.
Yes, yes, yes.
This is only about this pension.
While you're still there,
nomination form.
One thing that I hear that when people die, they get 15,000. But now you are saying there is a beneficiary when you pass on. I want you to clarify that so that it's clear. I understand that line very well. It's not me.
The 15,000 that you are talking about is another thing. It's something completely different. And that is called a funeral benefit.
Okay.
It's something that the GEPF provides. Normally, similar to what you will get as an insurance, that a funeral scheme, where you will go to an insurer and buys that. It is basically for burying the deceased member.
Okay.
So that is a separate thing. Now, what we are talking about, yes, what we are talking about here is a death benefit. A death benefit, basically, it means what the money that would have gone to the deceased, the lump sum, the entire lump sum, is now divided among his or her beneficiaries.
Okay.
Now, those beneficiaries, they first indicate what is called nominees. Nominees are the people that the beneficiary, the member would have liked those people to be paid.
Yeah.
To say, I nominate my wife, my children, my what, and my brother. Or if you don't have children, I nominate my parent or whatever. Whoever you have chosen should get a portion of this money. And you allocate in percentages. The board will look into that, but it has the option not to pay those people, as you had indicated. That is why I say it is not a will. Okay. It can be changed by the board when it makes the distribution. Okay. Then the second part is where they talk about beneficiaries. Beneficiaries are those other people that the board may consider. You may have a child that you have left out in the nomination, and the board feels that this person deserves to be paid out, like these other people that you have nominated. And it may allocate a portion to that child that you had excluded. So that benefit basically is divided among those things. It can include the spouse, it can include the children. So that's why I say it's separate from the spousal benefit. It's paid as a lump sum to those people. It's a once-off thing.
It's a once-off thing. Now,
it's a once-off. Whereas the spousal benefit that I talked about is a monthly annuity. It's payable for the life of the spouse. So those are the two different benefits payable.
Okay. I want to get that I understand. Let's say Mr. Mokoena, he's got 3 million. That money, what do we call it? The lump sum payable to the beneficiary.
Yes, so that benefit, yes.
And then Mr. Mokoena, he's got 4 beneficiaries, wife and kids. Now this 3 million will go to the wife, or will go to wife and the kids, or it will depend on how he nominated in terms of percentage. Are they supposed to give percentage that this one I give you so much, this one I give so much? That's one question. All right.
In the nomination form, you can indicate the percentages that you wish each person gets. But that is where I said that the board still has to apply its mind to. It's not bound by those percentages that you have nominated. Yes, it can pay only those nominees if there are no any other people, as you have indicated, or it can say no. Here we will reallocate the percentages, basically.
I'll go back to that one.
That will be the distribution of that 3 million to those people.
Okay, I'll go back to that one to say what makes the board to decide. What are the circumstances that make the board to pay or not to pay? But we'll go back to that one. Okay, fine. Yes. The 3 million is divided. It's not that it goes to the wife. It goes to all the nominated people. Even if the wife is there, everybody will get. All right, according to the nomination. Now, the other thing that I want to ask. Now, me as a member, do I have that flexibility of nominating anyone? Can I nominate my brother, who's not part of my family, but is my brother?
That is where the beneficiary comes in. A beneficiary basically would be anybody who was financially dependent on the deceased. That is what they will. In terms of the Pension Funds Act, applying what they call 37C, Section 37C of the Pension Funds Act, it deals with the same position, There they talk about dependence, financial dependence. So people who were financially dependent on the deceased. So if your brother, let's say, for example, you have a younger brother, you are taking him through school, and you are paying for his fees. Basically, that is established way that he is financially dependent on. And you are paying for his tuition and food, and you give him pocket money, and it's regular. So that person, even if you haven't put him in the nomination form,
yes,
he qualifies to come and say, I was financially dependent on my brother. And one of your kids can stand up and say, but this is not your my father's biological child, this is a brother. But then the board can consider that and say, yes, he has established that he was financially dependent on the deceased. Then they can allocate a portion to him.
But that will require
either through your nomination or through him proving to the board without being nominated that he was financially dependent.
So in other words, evidence is required.
Evidence is required.
So it's prudent for people out there, whenever they do these things, they must have evidence. They must have proof. So that when they submit, they can give evidence. So now the board will decide based on that. Remember, I said I wanted to know that what will make the board decide not to pay and what will make the board decide to pay.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you want to elaborate on that?
The evidence. The evidence will decide whether this person has established that they were dependent on the deceased.
Okay. So the most important thing that comes out sharply is dependable. And them depending on the deceased, and there is evidence to prove that they were depending on the deceased.
Now, here is one controversial part.
Yeah.
You were talking about a spouse, somebody who can prove that they are a spouse.
Yeah.
Now, if you are residing with a girlfriend,
yes,
and you are paying basically the food and whatever it is in the house. Yes. For example, let's say the girlfriend is unemployed.
Yes, yes.
That girlfriend can take that evidence and say, he was paying for everything. I was financially dependent on him. Basically, that will establish them as a beneficiary. That should be considered by the board.
Sorry, Advocate, I cut you short all the time. This goes back to what happened at some point, if I'm not mistaken, whereby they were saying, if you stayed with somebody for 6 months or more, you're as good as married. Do you remember that?
From a pension fund perspective, that statement is partly true.
Partly true.
Yes.
Where
partly true in that they still you still need to be able to, the other person still needs to be able to prove that they were financially dependent on you. If they were staying with you, but you were not maintaining them, they were not financially dependent, they could support themselves, then that won't apply.
Okay, okay.
Yes. That's where I use the word partly to clarify that it's not automatic.
The law works this way. If the High Court issue a judgment, subsequently, the following cases will follow that case study. Not long. I don't know whether you know this guy. Rick was a singer, very popular among the youth. He passed on, not long. Then the wife, it was all over. The wife apparently wanted to be an executor. But they did not marry officially. But the argument that she was putting forward to the court was, no, I depended on him, I've been supporting him and all that. But unfortunately for her, the court threw her case out. They said, no, it can't be. I don't know whether you remember that case.
Yes, I'm not really familiar with the facts, but I've heard of
Okay.
Basically, there's two things here. That is in relation to the estate in its entirety. It's got nothing to do with the pension. Here we are talking about the pension, which is, yes, different. A different law applies to the distribution of a pension.
So these are two separate entities.
Yes, they are two separate entities. There is the distribution of an estate, of a deceased person's estate, which can be in terms of the will or in terms of what they call where a person had no will, they will distribute what they talk about interstate succession. So that is completely different. Now, one thing that is quite common throughout, whether it's the pension or what, is how much evidence can you produce to back up what you are alleging?
Okay.
Yes.
Advocate, you have mentioned...
to say I was being maintained, but it's a different thing to produce evidence of being maintained.
I think people should get it clearly. It's very important that you prove. It's very important that you put evidence together, because the court does not talk about hearsay. The court talks about evidence. Advocate, you touched something very important, the one of the estate and the disease, blah, blah. We'll discuss that at some point, because we need clarity. You know, I don't want to catch you by surprise. I'm making an appeal to you to say one day we'll have another, because we want to clarify these things so that people understand. The more they understand, it will be better for people to understand how to deal with their question. Now, my colleague has given me a question here, which I thought you were going to have the last question. So he's given me, so let me ask you, because you are here, it's difficult to get hold of you, Advocate, because you are so working. He said, working beneficiary and capable and self-sufficient economically, are they entitled to the pension of the member? Let me repeat, working beneficiaries, they are working and capable and self-sufficient economically. You know, they're independent. I think you've answered this, but I want to repeat, because he just used that privilege that I'm here. Then he gave me that question. If you can...
Yes, for example, that depends.
Yeah.
It's if Mr. Chabalala here is just before retirement, he has got 3 kids who are adults.
Yeah.
They are all employed.
Yeah.
He's got a wife who is also employed. And he passes on. Now there is a benefit to be distributed.
Yeah.
Then it gets distributed among those same people, whether they are working or not, because all of them are, or let's say one of them is not.
Yeah.
What the board will do when distributing is to skew the distribution in favor of those who are unemployed.
The vulnerable.
The vulnerable. But that doesn't mean that the other ones are being excluded. You may find, to say somebody is working, they are doing a menial job.
Yes. A garden job, sort of.
Yes. So that is also going to be considered to somebody who is earning a higher salary, and say, you know what, this one maybe we shouldn't allocate anything to him, or we can allocate just a minimum. So those are the things that the board is supposed to consider when distributing the benefit. It doesn't mean that automatically they are excluded or automatically they are included. It's circumstantial.
So the board, they don't just come up and say, we don't like you. There are facts, evidence that supports them to decide. Now I'm gonna ask the last one. This 3 million, children are there, and then I personally, the one of beneficiary. As you say, the board will decide who to get what, and because I get those kind of questions. Baba wethu shonile, washado omunye umfazi, asitholanga niks. You see those things. And then, so now they will share this 3 million, all of them. Now, the age limit, remember, GBF, there is age limit. Above 24 years, you are not entitled. Just explain on that one.
There is no age limit on the distribution of a death benefit.
Or death benefit.
The age limit applies to something else. It's what is called a child benefit. A child benefit basically means somebody who is a minor or who is a major meaning above 18, but is still a student, who can prove basically that they are at a school or a university or whatever, a tertiary institution, and so that will be payable to them. So that is a child benefit, is a separate thing. But as far as the death benefit, there's no age cap off.
Okay.
No.
Now, the child benefit that you said, it's kept at 10%, am I right?
The child benefit basically it comes from the same pot where the spousal benefit comes from. Yeah, so it is a portion of the spousal benefit that will be paid.
Kept at 10%.
Yes.
Kept at 10% of what the spouse, let's say the spouse was earning 30,000, then
yes,
child benefit will be 3,000.
Yes, that will come from there. Yes.
Okay. And the more children,
it's going to, it will also depend on whether there's a spouse.
Okay. Yeah,
you see.
The spouse. If
there's a spouse. Yes.
If there's no spouse, then that's when it comes in. If there's a spouse, it goes to the spouse.
No, they will share.
They will share with the spouse.
There will be a child benefit and a spousal benefit. But
the spouse, the spouse will get more, the child will get
will get less. Yes.
That 10% still applies.
But yes, that also depends on the number of children. You may find this.
Yes.
You see, those it will be split equally among whatever it is that is available.
I like the one of depending on the children. If I'm correct me if I'm wrong. The knowledge that I have is that 10%, if there are 4, they are going to share the 10%, 4 of them.
Yes.
Is that exactly that?
That would be it, yes.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Now, 2 things. I'm parting my ways. I've taken too much of your time. I want you to tell me about your office. What has it done so far, ever since you start? Are you seeing any improvement between you and GPF and the recipient, which are members? Those kind of things. And then that's one part. And that's one thing that I wanted to know. How has your office worked? And there was the other one that I wanted to ask you as the last one. But let's talk about it. How is the relationship now?
Our office is working very well with the GEPF.
Yeah.
Although it was slower to start, or rather to gel, in the sense that it took longer than what we had thought, because what we expected was not what the fund or the employers expected. So we had to start engaging with them more often to get to a point where they know what we want, they know how to respond to us, and then we are able to resolve the complaints in a speedier manner. But one of the things that has happened as well is that over and above resolving the individual complaints, we have been able to isolate what the causes of the problems are in the majority of cases. And we've been able to address that with the fund, the GPF, to say, there is this problem. It's quite a prevalent problem, and we think that this is the reason why. So that instead of waiting for us to resolve the individual complaints, they must go to the source of the problem and address it there.
Yeah. So that they are proactive. They are not.
They are proactive. Yes. That is the one biggest thing that we have been able to do in a few of the matters that, because it doesn't help to wait for somebody to complain. If you can actually go and proactively stop it, and so that those people should never experience those problems.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest challenge was, it's got to do with communication, but not that there was no communication, but probably that there was a misunderstanding of what was being communicated.
No, communication was a problem.
Say something,
as far as I'm concerned.
The other person says something and the other person hears something.
Now, I hear what you're saying. In my experience, that was one of the issues I fought with them.
Yes. So that has been one of the things that we've been emphasizing, that here I think when we are communicating this, we need to be more clear about this, because people are hearing this based on their complaints. That you are communicating with them and you are saying this. We know you are saying this because that is what your rules say. But people are hearing this because for whatever reason, or based on where they come from, they understand this as the complaint. And they bring it to us as the complaint to say, we were told this, but which is actually not the case.
You see, with me, the complaint that I used to have with them, but they've improved dramatically. You would send them an email, they won't even acknowledge. Send another email. At some point, emails are not working. But if emails are not working, Advocate Makhado, it's not our problem, it's their problem. They must sort it out. All right. But this is what I did. I engaged the CEO, Ms. Kidiboni. And at some point, I had a meeting with his executive team, Mr. Murudu and Jay. I think there were supposed to be 4, but it ended up being Mr. Murudu and Jay. But I can tell you after that, they've improved tremendously. I even wrote an email to Mr. Kidiboni. I said, there is a big change, and that's all what we want. But me, I'm not saying it because you are here. I must say, credit to your office. Your office, where the interaction that I had with your office, I never had problems. You were clear that Mr. Chabalala, as you submit, we are not going to deal with it now. It is going to take 2 months. People need to know 2 months turnaround time, all right? But let me tell you, I was getting responses from your office, which is quite good, which is what we have been asking for. So credit to your office, and then I hope you keep it that way. At some point, when we started, you had only 4 of personnel, not much, but at least you're trying your best.
Yes.
Keep on complaining. If good things are happening, we must say it, so that people continue the good practice. Because at the end of the day, it's for who? It's for the members.
Yes.
And then the same with GPF. It's not that I was fighting them. At the end of the day, it's for the members. That is why I say to you, I wrote them an email, say, guys, I cannot always shoot you, but you are doing exceptionally well. Do you understand? So I'm saying, how many people do you have now? Because I remember you were only 4, and I was a little bit worried.
Yes, it's still a very small office. We are 13 all in all. And yes, it's but we have to do what we have to do based on the resources that we have. But the biggest challenge is, as we speak, the office has been in existence now since officially we started officially receiving complaints from the 1st of July in 2021. So it's just over 2 years. As we speak, we are approaching 9,000 complaints in that space of 2 years. And so you can do the numbers and you'll imagine how many cases a person has to deal with.
How many have they been successfully done?
We are able to do about, in a month, about, give or take, around 400 cases of resolution of complaints from what we receive in a month.
Okay. Now, in this 9,000,
yes,
in terms of percentage, what has been the delivery?
I think so far we are at just under 2,000.
2,000.
Okay. Yeah, just under 2,000. But that is the space that we are operating in. Unfortunately, we wish we could resolve complaints in bulk, like group them and say, you know what, your complaints are similar. This is it. This is the. Unfortunately, it's not like that. Each person's circumstances are different, so you have to always dig deep and look into what are these persons or what are these complaints circumstances, and that makes it difficult to dispose at a faster pace.
Yeah. But it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
There's one office that I deal with. I've been complaining to them. It's over the years now, communication. What they told me was, we are understaffed. I hope the department is looking at that, understaffed. Because understaffed, it will have its own impact. Like you are saying now, we are 13, and now you are dealing with national problems. GPF, at least, they are spread all over. It's not only Pretoria, you know? So I suppose they will do the same with your office. They will replicate the offices. Because, you know, one of those organizations that I talked about, let me tell you a nice story. When I went there was a guy sitting down. And then I asked him, where you come from? He said, from KZN, from Umlas. I said, Chief, are you in Joburg to come and collect this? He was collecting a certificate. He said, yes. Then when I arrived, I went there too. They're not far from me, reluctantly. Then when I arrived, I told them, I come here under protest because I'm not supposed to be here. Then I asked this guy, when I arrived, I can't remember what time was it. 2:45, he was leaving. I asked him, what time did you arrive? Because he was sitting down. He said, I arrived at 12. Can you imagine? From 12 to 2:45, a man is sitting there. It's unacceptable. Then I said, you know what, guys? Time is important. Now, the time that you allocated me now to interview you, it's a very important time, which you are supposed to do some of the work. So I don't expect people to sit 3 hours doing nothing. I'm just saying that in passing. But what we are doing, it's very important because you are educating people out there. And I'm saying big up to you. We will talk about the estate in future, unless there's anything that you want to say in parting ways. But thank you very much for agreeing when I asked you, Dr. Advocate Makhado, can you be available? Let's talk.
Yes. I thank you for the opportunity as well. We'd like to assist our members. So wherever they can hear of our message. If you have a complaint against the GPF, you can bring it to the Office of the Ombud, Government Employees Pension Ombud. You go to www.gepo.co.za, and you can actually even submit your complaints online there without actually having to come in person.
Good.
That is quite it. Thank you.
You know what? The good thing about me, I've learned now, I've become bigger. They've showed me that when I post, I can put the link. I'll put the link of your website.
Please, thank you.
To make it easy. Advocate Makhado, thank you very much. Keep up the good work. I hope I've got all the answers that I normally get. But going forward, please don't be impatient with me if I continue to ask questions, because clarity is important. We don't want to spoon feed people a poison. You know, my younger brother used to say to his friend, they used to fail a lot at school. He said to him, "Hey, you know what? Me and you can't be teachers. Otherwise, you're going to poison children."
Yes.
I don't want to poison people. You know, that is why for me clarity is important. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Carlo.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Bye.